What's my Westie love language? So my Westie love language is shared creativity. So my Westie love language is I would like us to deliver stuff that we do together.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Nerdy West Coast Swing, the podcast with pixels where the anchors are out of this world and the points don't matter. We are here to help train your eye so you can learn faster and dance better. I'm Cassie Winter.
I'm Alicia Marshall. If you're wondering who are we to be having these pros on as guests, Cassie and I both have extensive training and experience in both partnered and solo dancing. Cassie has about 23 years and I have about 25. We added a year.
I know, time keeps passing. I don't know. But tonight, we have Robert Royston. So excited to have you back, sir, and to have you all to ourselves.
I love you both so much, and I love this thing. And we talked about it before over on Sunday Science one time, and I told people to pop over to your stuff. I think your stuff is entertaining as well as educational, and you're both very funny and very smart. And I like funny. I like funny, smart people. I almost called you Smunny.
Funny
is smart and funny. You're Smunny.
We've got lots of insider terms here on Nerdy. I will accept it into
we're gonna hashtag Smunny. We're gonna hashtag smart and funny.
Oh my goodness. So tonight's topic is performative connection, which essentially means that people are trying to look like they are connecting and are connected in West Coast Swing, but they aren't actually functionally connected. Right. And so we're gonna have a conversation about the disconnect in like how you can improve your own dancing with this information. And also like, it'd be fun to have a conversation about how overall with teaching, we can start filling this gap, because like, I don't know about you, Robert, but like we see it even at the high levels. People are like performing connection, and it hurts the soul, because I know how many times I've been in a workshop of yours where you have explicitly said you can see when I'm connecting here, right? And the whole room can obviously be like, yeah, oh yeah, it was right there. So like one can see connection. Anyways, I
just did this yesterday at City of Angels. I brought this a follow out into the middle, and I did a bunch of underarm turns and a bunch of sugar pushes. And I started talking about countering and understanding the system of resistance through counter and all that kind of stuff. So I said, so when we're moving in the same direction at the same rate and there's no stretch whatsoever, like if I'm here and there's no stretch and I'm moving like this, or am I moving where there seems to be something there, right? So like da-na-na-na-na or da-na-na-na-na, right? So I did it, and I said to the whole room, I want you to say same out loud when it looks like we're moving in the same direction at the same rate. There's no connection. I said, so I did it a bunch. I danced like 6 or 7 basics. Nobody said same because I was countering the whole time. Did all these basics. Then I immediately went into same, doing the exact same set of basics without saying anything. And they all yelled same. And then there's like this little murmur, like, oh shit. But like, oh my God, it is really visible. And then I was like this, and I kept doing it. And then they were like, and then one guy goes, this is hurting my eyes. And I was like, welcome to being a judge. Welcome to being a judge, because it hurts my eyes when I see it too, right? So if you see it literally back to back, yep. Like you can go like, wow, it is super visual when you see people disconnecting.
Yeah. Yeah, I once had a student come up to me after working with me for about half a year at a social dance. This was in the before times. And he came up to me, he's like, what have you done to me? I hate you. I can't unsee this.
No.
And I'm like, I have done my job.
Right. So I was talking about connection, how when connection is being used in the arm and the hand and the leg effectively, connection to the floor and connection to the arm, connection to the leg, so the plane of connection and the plane of propulsion, like using those effectively, how it releases the spine to be able to have the spine dance a little bit more. This doesn't need to make a lot of sense to all of you right now, but basically if connection is being used effectively, the spine gets to dance more. So I went through this whole thing in this level 5 intensive in France, and Jakub and Emmeline were in it, and Maxence and Virginie were in the class. For all of you who know Jakub and Emmeline. So then Jakub and I got into this whole conversation about it, and I was showing him later that night in social dancing, whatever. So then the next day we're judging together, right? And we get up and we walk off, and he walks by me, and am I allowed to swear on this?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And he goes, I fucking hate you, Royston. I was like, what? He's like, I can't unsee it now. I can't unsee it. 3 times he walked by me 3 times over the course of 2 days of judging, and he was just going, I hate you, I hate you, I hate that I can't see what's going on with their spine because of their lack of connection. I was like, you're welcome. Like,
Enjoy.
so even at that level, even at the Jakob and Emmeline level, like it's still always like, wow, like you can't unsee it once it's there.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I guess, like, just to make this really abundantly clear, can well-trained judges see connection? Yes or no? And yes, this is a leading question.
Right. Can well-trained judges see connection? I mean, so because of the preamble to the question, which is like once you qualify with can well-trained judges, sure. The bigger question is, do we have a system of well-trained judges? And I would say no. Right. So like if you say to me, can well-trained judges? Sure, of course, well-trained judges can.
Mm-hmm.
Awkward smile and nod.
You said, do you think lots of our judges who judge in West Coast Swing can tell good connection or bad connection? I would say, actually, I don't think so. I don't think the majority of our judges have the right amount of training. You know, I was just talking to my daughter about this tonight. So my kids were here today. My daughter's hardcore ballerina. I mean, jazz and contemporary too, but like her life at 12, almost 13 years old is school. She's like, my life is school, dance, shower, repeat, school, dance, shower, repeat. And so she goes to school, and then she also does 7 hours a week of dance. So, right, she's hardcore. And she got into almost 1,000 dancers auditioned for the ABT, which is American Ballet Theater, for those people who don't know it, for the ABT summer intensive program. They take 100, and she was one of the ones. She got into the ABT intensive.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, super, super hardcore. But we were talking today about, I was talking to her about her teachers and some master classes she's taken. And she basically said, at 12 years old, she said, great dancers don't always make great teachers. And I was like, 100%. And we started talking about some of the likes and dislikes about her teachers. And I said, it's the same thing with judges. It's the same thing with all of it. Like we have a system of people become good dancers. They take lessons for their own dance. If they're taking lessons for their own dance, what they're learning is probably what's missing from their own dance. Most of them don't learn what's not missing from their own dance. So their ability to recreate it, see it, teach it, judge it is actually not so great because the self-awareness isn't where it needs to be. And so then that propagates itself to, well, this person's won a championship, so then they should judge. You know, like because they've done the thing, they're really good at the thing. But like Bella Caroli, you know, couldn't do the vault that Nadia Comaneci did to win the perfect tens in the Olympics. For those of you old enough to remember that, you know, Bella Caroli was this amazing gymnastics coach who couldn't do the thing that he was coaching, but understood the process. Yeah. So it's the same thing, like some of my favorite judges actually in our community aren't high-level dancers, right? But they've been trained, they've trained their eye to understand what's going on. So like people are like, oh, wouldn't you rather have, you know, retired champions judging the champions division? I mean, in a perfect world, retired champions that have had a lot of training judging the champions division would be great. If not, I would rather take people that had never got out of advanced, but took a ton of training for the mind knowledge and the visual knowledge of how to decipher. You know, I can be, so I've taken biomechanics classes, but then I've also taken diagnostic biomechanic classes, and those are different, right? So the biomechanic classes to understand how this stuff works. The diagnostic classes that I've taken with NASM are how to diagnose what's going on, like, which is what teachers and judges need. Was that a long answer for your question?
It was a gorgeous answer for my question.
Any recommendations for diagnostic biomechanics classes? Yeah, NASM, the National National Endurance and Strength Training Association, right? So like they have a biomechanics specialist course. So I would just Google, there's a couple of them out there for biomechanics diagnostic courses, right? So NASM is one of them, Kyle. That's the one that I took. And it's really great, right? So I also went through a process that most of you wouldn't have access to with the IOC, the International Olympic Committee. So when I was I became a certified coach for ice dancing back before the Vancouver Olympics. I coached 4 couples to the Vancouver Olympics, and I had to pass a test as a biomechanics coach from a diagnostic standpoint, to be able to watch edges and all that other kind of stuff and figure out where their body was, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. So do I wish more judges cared about connection? Because I know you didn't ask that, but I'm just going to piggyback that onto your question.
Go right ahead. That's the idea.
I wish more judges cared about how connection affects what's going on in the dance, and how sometimes what we see a lot in the competitions is we see people physically disconnecting to be able to deliver the dance that they want musically, because they don't understand how to do it through connection. So they do it through disconnection. And so even though there's like fun wow moments or silly moments or musical moments that make a crowd might laugh or clap, they make me cringe because it happened.
Yeah.
And it gets rewarded competitively instead of the dances that are well connected.
It's going to drink as you say that.
Yes.
Right. And a whole lot of my people that are on this are like, yeah. Here's what I tell people all the time. You can have the music, you can have the entertainment value of me or Kyle or Tatiana. Like you can have that comedic value topped with like the performative values and all of those other things, but you can do it all through connection. Like you never look at Kyle and go, oh my God, he was so funny, he was so interesting, but he was disconnected. Like that doesn't exist with Kyle Red, right? So, so he's able to deliver his dance through the connection of our dance. He's able to deliver what he wants performatively through the connection, as opposed to removing the connection to then do the thing that gets the crowd to clap, right? It's just like I tell people, like, you don't have to leave our dance to deliver musicality to our dance, right? So you don't, like, I like West Coast Swing to be the foundation, to be the canvas that you paint your art with, right? Or paint your art on. I want West Coast Swing Foundation. And part of West Coast Swing Foundation is the consistency of our connection.
Right. Yes, yes, just so much yes. So if we think of helping people to train their eyes to be able to spot good connection versus performative connection, what are some like signposts of performative connection that come to the top of your mind?
Right. So I will say this. So when you're competing in a Jack and Jill or Strictly Swing or a Classic or Showcase or Rising Star, I tell everybody all the time, my social level of connection, we're just, so let's remind ourselves of this. Connection does not mean tension. Like, let's remind ourselves of that, because we say all of the time, we use the word connection sometimes in the replacement for the word tension, right? So connection means that I'm touching you. Right. So for me, two people connected for couples dancing, they're either visually connected, right? They're physically connected. So they can be physically connected, visually connected. They should be body language connected. Like everything about my body language is asking you to pay attention to what I'm doing, right? We can joke and say they should be emotionally connected, but the idea is that, or spiritually connected. So, so the idea is we're both connected to the music. So we both mentally are connected to the song that we're dancing to. We're both mentally connected to each other, both visually and with body language, and then we're physically connected. Now, within that connection, there can be varied amounts of tension, and there can be varied amounts of body language tension. There can be varied amounts of tension within the connection of the physical side of it all. So let's be very clear, as we talk about connection, we tend to think that that means tension, right? So connection means that we are touching physically, visually, spiritually, whatever it is, right? That we are on the same page with each other. Y'all with me on that? So, so because like some people will say constant connection. I do have constant connection. Some people say constant connection is a bad thing. No, constant tension within the hand is a bad thing, right? Constant connection, I am constantly connected to my partner, either visually or physically, visually, or body language wise. I am constantly communicating to my partner. So constant connection for me is a constant sense of communication between the two of us, visually, body language, with conversational body language, conversational eye contact, and then the physical side of things. When it comes to tension within the physical side of connection, right, we should be able to see a varied amount of that never going to zero. So it shouldn't go to zero. There should always be a system of usage in the hand. Right? There should, either the leader or the follower should be able to use whatever's happening in the hand to their benefit as needed. So when you're watching people dance, and you can look to their arms or wherever they're connected, be it shoulder to shoulder, hand to back, hand to hand, elbow to elbow, I don't care, right? There should be a visual amount of tension or opposition that's occurring where we are countering each other somehow, some way. The level can be varied, but it should be visual. Right? So the idea that I just said is if their arms look like this as they're moving, that's bad. This should happen. Whether it's this or whether it's this, it's just never this. It's never this. So this doesn't happen. it's this, right? Where there's the commencement of stretch, where there's a lot of stretch, or here, but never this, right? And that is something super visual you should be able to see.
Mm-hmm. Is the language of cause and effect something you use in your teaching as well? Because, for example, one of the things that I think of in performative connection is a follow moving into a third foot anchor before they've even tethered the connection, as an example.
Right. So yeah, definitely cause and effect, right? So like for me, when it comes to performative connection, it's what am I communicating through the hands, right? So as a follow goes to a leg, I have this technique I call foot to hip to hand. So, and actually I was so excited because I just popped into a Ben and Victoria class, and Victoria was talking about foot to hip to hand. And I was like, that's amazing. I teach that too. And she went, learned it from you. So
I could see the look on her face.
Right. She was like, your intensive in Palm Springs about 5 years ago. So foot tip to hand is that whatever is happening at the foot and into that hip. So whatever foot the follow lands on in a landing moment, and landing moments are super important with connection. We can talk about those. So whenever a follow lands in a landing moment, what foot they are on, the foot should radiate whatever the weight is and the usage of the floor through the hip. So I know what's going on. And then that should be communicated through the hand, right? So foot tip to hand. And the follow should not try to deviate from the foot to the hip thing without communicating it to the hand. So I say to follows all the time, when you get there through the connection, what's available to you? And if they go, everything's available to me, well, that's not true, right? Because you want to monitor the connection. So you might land in a situation where only one leg is available to you. And they go, but I can change feet. No, you can't. I mean, can you physically change feet? Yes, but then it alters the connection, and that's bad, right? So I don't want you changing feet. I want it. And if you're going to change feet, you must communicate it into the hand as or prior to you doing it. As you're doing it or prior to you doing it, you need to tell me in the hand what's going on at the floor, right? So especially in performative connection, because if I'm going to piggyback off something you do, or I'm going to be responsorial to something you do, I need to feel what you are doing. Right. So this whole like, I'm going to change weight and not put it into the leader's hand is absurd, because I need to know what you're doing to then better make a decision to what's going to happen next. I don't know if that answered that question.
Yeah. Yes.
So the whole foot tip to hand. And then I do this thing with my all-stars. Well, I do it with everybody, but I do it like I do these champ camps at my house. Right. So I just did one recently with Kristen Shaw and Tuan Nguyen and Mia Pastor and Sam Vaden and Jen Ferreira and Omar Gonzalez and Nicole Zwerline and Kyle Fitzgerald. So all high-level all-stars, right? So the four of them, everybody sat in everybody's lesson. Like there was no like individual private lessons, all the stuff worked together. So I would do things where I would be like, I would tell the leaders what landing moment they had to get to. And then when they landed there, I'd say, okay, stop, follow, say out loud what's available to you. What body parts are available to you? And they weren't allowed to give a body part that altered the connection. Mm-hmm. Right? So that they had to better decision-making, collect information about the structure that they were placed in. So what's the framework that I'm placed in? And then how do I dance that, with where I'm placed in? And then we start to talk to the leaders about when you land a follow, if you want to follow to fill that space, if your request is that you want to give it to them, then you actually want to make sure that you're giving them a solid connection, but maybe not, maybe the connection is asking for just one foot and one hand, and that you're not restricting them, like, so that you're like, I want you to fill the space, but I have both of your hands and I put you split weight. So you don't have your hands and you don't have your feet. Well, then how are they going to fill that? They have their knees, their hips, their rib cage, fine, but they don't have much. Or if I go like, okay, I'm only going to keep one hand and you have the rest of your body to deliver this. But if I want them to pay attention to me, I might be more restrictive to the parts that they have available to themselves, right? Within the connection. So I do that with All-Stars where we land and I go, what's available to you? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And then they have to go from there. Oh. Yeah.
So cool. So another thing that I see a lot is performative double resistance in particular. And so I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Well, the performative double resistance is, so there's two reasons why it happens, right? One, because leaders are trying to create something that they think that they see, or they think that exists a lot in like the me and the Jordan and the Kyle and Sarah. You see a lot of double resistance in Sarah, and like, so the double resistance, which is really going from stretch to compression back to stretch, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very effective. It's a great way to fill space for very slow songs. right? It's a great way to actually have that double resistance, if done properly, can build an extreme amount of tension. So if we talk about numbers, right, going into double resistance, I might go in at a 5, but I finish the final part of that resistance at like an 8, because I'm going to deliver some speed. So we use that as a build, 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 instead of just a bop, 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 right? So, but then they see us do it, people see us do it, and they're like, oh, well, they're doing double resistance. So they take a Jordan Tatiana's class and they're doing double resistance, right? But they don't understand the usage of double resistance. So 1 is it fills space, right? 2, it builds tension. It should build energy, right? That I'm going to use for some sort of like usually powered texture. Like if you watch back in the day, you'll see people like, God rest his soul, Jason Colosino or Wayne Bott use double resistance. God rest both of their souls. Like you'll see them use double resistance to create extreme power to like do barrel rolls and things like that, right? So, and then people go like, oh, but then some people use it to hit music. And so they try. For me, lots of times double resistance occurs in like the intermediate level. I see it a little bit in novice, not so much, but intermediate and into advanced, because the leaders are seeking connection because they feel like the connection's been lost, or the follows seeking connection. They feel like the connection's lost. So they pop this double resistance as a means of just trying to feel the person because they're not there, right? So performative double resistance should be as a means of filling space to slow music or a building of tension for some sort of texture or power, right? And most people misuse it. Like, because they think it's just a visual thing that we do, and that's pretty fun. People come to me all the time, teach me double resistance. And I'm like, why? Like, I'll teach it to you, but why do you want to learn it? Right. So like I do a double resistance, like I referenced Michelle, who's on here a few times. So Michelle and I do this double resistance because she likes to do this Sarah Van Drake leg whip. Right. And so the double resistance builds this like, wow, this whip effect, this leg undulation that happens, right? So the double resistance is required for that because we're using it. We're using the tension that we're building to have this leg snap release at the end of it. Yeah. But yes, it's misused a ton, right? And people don't understand the purpose of double resistance. Because if we think about, so double resistance came into our dance predominantly during the, because you're going to get a history lesson now. So in the 80s, right? So we have to remember that West Coast Swing and North Dallas Push and Houston Whip, right, are brothers and sisters of each other. They all started in the USO clubs, like at the military bases post World War II or around World War II. So a sophisticated swing was starting to happen, and this new form of kind of slotted swing was happening. A bunch of regiments from Dallas and Houston were stationed in LA as they came home from being overseas, and then they went back. So we're at these clubs doing this kind of new form of swing. Wasn't called West Coast Swing at the time. So, and it wasn't even really called sophisticated swing, didn't really have a name. It was just this slotted, slow kind of like form. It wasn't really Lindy Hop. And so they went, and so now now they get to Texas, right? Now there's no YouTube, there's no videos, there's no nothing. So the people that are there are trying to recreate what they saw and what they danced at these USO clubs in California. So at the same time as West Coast Swing is kind of starting to formulate, this other dance, as these soldiers go home to Texas, is starting to formulate as well. But in Texas, they were dancing a lot to slow blues, right? So in California, they would be dancing to pop music, right? So the Justin Bieber of the day would be Frank Sinatra, right? So they're dancing so Fly Me to the Moon is right up there with Sorry by Justin Bieber, right? Like that was the pop music that the teenagers were listening to. We think about like people like Sinatra and whatever as like our parents' music or our grandparents' music, but we have to remember our grandparents were teenagers when Sinatra was big, right? So Sinatra was Justin Bieber to that generation, right? So we think of it as old person's music, but they were young when they loved it. So but then you go to Texas, and lots of the clubs and lots of where they were dancing this was playing like different styles of Texas music, and some of that was a slow Texas blues, right? So the music was slower. It was either really fast or really slow in Texas. So they used double resistance to fill space or to build tension, right? And so North Dallas Push, right, which had that push back and forth, and Houston Whip, which also had that push back and forth, was a means of an adjustment to the music to fill space and to build tension, to be able to go faster. So build tension to be able to create speed, or to fill space because there was so much time in between the beats. So now we go into the 80s, right? So in the 80s, like now the Texas world comes out of Texas and they come into the swing world, into the West Coast swing world, right? And we're all like, whoa, your chocolate's in my peanut butter and your peanut butter's in my chocolate, Reese's peanut butter cup, right? So like we were like, you're very similar to us, but kind of different. And we're very similar to you, but kind of different. But we found that there was this huge crossover, right? And so now we have like the Mario Rabaus, the Ramiro Gonzalez's, and the Gary Longs, and the Penny Crabtrees, and the Rosemary Maladies, like these amazing Texas dancers that like that undulation of the double resistance was just part of their basic. They didn't even call it double resistance, it just was their basic. But then as we started to do it, we're like, oh, well, we have to call it something, so we're calling it double resistance. But we ended up using it because our music shifted too. Our music shifted greatly in the early 90s, late 80s, because of the hybrid of what was going on in Texas. And then Carolina Shag came in and we were like, oh, wait a second. So instead of dancing to like fast jazz and fast blues, which was predominantly what was done in the West Coast swing world in California, like you learned West Coast swing at like 110, and then you danced it socially around 135, 140. Like, so like Fly Me to the Moon was like the perfect West Coast swing song, right? So, or Back to Louisiana. So like fast blues, like B.B. King, like, so fast Chicago blues, fast jazz, like that was the thing that we danced to. And then it started to like slow down. So then we started like, because in Texas they were dancing really fast, really slow music. So we started to look to their techniques to be able to do the new content that we like, because now we'd have like a Mario Rabau dancing in a Jack and Jill with a Marian Nunez, right? So we'd have like or a Charlotte Bott. So we'd have like this phenomenal West Coast swing California dancer dancing with this phenomenal Texas dancer, right? And so they started to have to find each other in the middle somewhere. And so things like double resistance became that tool for West Coast swing dancers to be able to adapt to the music variety that we were getting from the Texas style. Mm-hmm. Sorry about that whole history lesson, but like understand.
I never get mad about West Coast swing history. Right. Love it. So I think
we have to understand why it exists. I feel like in order to do it well, we have to understand why it exists, right? So double resistance is a great way to fill space, and it's also a great way to build tension in the connection to then create a variety of textures, right? From different speed things to leg widths and all that stuff.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I think before we get to our frame through of one of your dances, because we've already touched on a little bit how competitively and judging wise performative connection is an issue. But I guess my question is, in the teaching landscape from very, very beginner to all-star, where do you think the biggest holes are that are creating that performative connection problem over time?
How much time do we have?
So, take a drink, go fast.
So from a teaching perspective, where do I think the holes are from novice to all-star? Wow. Mm-hmm. So, okay, from a novice level, I think the holes are that lots of teachers just teach what they were taught and not what they do. And they assume the students' unintelligence instead of their intelligence. Mm-hmm. So as a teacher, because I teach weekly classes in New York, so I can be your local teacher. I am the local teacher to lots of people here in the Manhattan area. And so for me, I teach my beginning classes immediately delivering an understanding of connection, right? So you just have to do it fun and quick and not spend a lot of time, but every week I try to layer something on about connection. So I feel like at the novice level, lots of pro dancers believe that they got to where they are through those basic standard techniques that people teach, right? So there's a saying, mediocrity breeds mediocrity even through exceptionalism. So, mediocre teachers will teach mediocre techniques. Some of their students will become exceptional. When their students become exceptional, they will probably teach the mediocre techniques they were taught because they believe that's how they got to where they are. Where the exceptional teacher looks at the new space and then teaches from the new space, right? Mm-hmm. So in the novice level, I feel like we still have this whole like Arthur Murray, just get them moving, get them excited, they'll sign a big contract, and then we'll hopefully somewhere down the road teach them better how to dance. So that at the novice level, I think that's the thing that's missing. Mm-hmm. At the intermediate, advanced, and all-star level, I think the thing that is missing is that we tend to focus and reward. I hate the term flash and trash. Like, I hate it because I don't think that's always the example. People say that's so flash and trash. And I go, no, that wasn't flash and trash. There was lots of connection through what they were doing. Like, yes, it was performative. Yes, it was over the top, but it was very communicated. So that's for me. So because I don't have a better term, I'd say that we start to reward the flash and trash without the connection side of things at the higher levels. And so then the the priority becomes the placement. And when the priority becomes the placement and nobody is chastising the lack of connection, well, then I'm just going to worry about how I make people laugh or clap. And I'm going to worry about how my partner is affected by it. Right. And so that's where we lack in the teaching of the coaches should be saying to these all-stars and these all-stars and advanced dancers, I don't care how, I don't care that the audience laughed. I did this on one of my Sunday Sciences. I was like, I don't care that the audience laughed. So I made them watch. Recently, I made them watch an all-star contest where I said, I just want you to look at the leader, because you're going to look at the follower the whole time, because the follower is dropping into the splits and doing all this kind of crazy stuff. But I want you to look at the body language of the leader. So I made them watch the whole dance. Then we did it again. And I said, just watch the body language of the leader. And then I said, what did you see? And they were like, oh my God, like it looks like a different dance, because this guy's terrified and just trying to figure things out. But as the audience, all I see is the person that drops in split. And I go, that's amazing. But we don't look at the effect on the other person. And so then it gets rewarded. Like this particular dance, I think happened to one. I wouldn't have had it in the top 5. On my ballot, it wouldn't have been in the top 5, right? And recently I judged in France, and 2 of the leaders that always make finals didn't make finals on my ballot. And they came up to me afterwards and they were like, like everybody puts us in finals. I go, I understand. I understand everybody puts you in finals. I understand that you're basically out there masturbating, and I don't care to see that. So on my ballot, you'll never make finals until you understand that this is a joint thing that's going on here. You know what I mean? By the way, excuse the expression, sorry, but you said
that's a new one for me, and I like it. I might also use it myself.
Right. So like whatever. I have a really crude analogy that I'll give you guys offline.
Okay. We can do that off the record later before you sign off.
I'll try to say this nicely. I basically feel like sometimes the leader, if I can put it on, I'm going to put it just for the sake of this reference into a male-female situation. I know that we shouldn't live in that, and I'm not trying to live in that, but just for the sake of this, is that the guy gets the really hot girl finally to commit to going to bed with them, and then they just lay there and touch themselves while the person stays next to them, right? And that for me happens so much on the dance floor, and then it's rewarded, and that'll never be rewarded on my ballot. Like I'll kill it. So and so that happened in France. And then, but I will say this to the 2 leaders, and as a huge plus, is they came to me not upset. They were like, okay, like we appreciate your opinion. We respect the fact that you came at this from a different, so how do we fix that? And I was like, okay, let's talk. And the whole conversation became about connection and understanding, not leaving the partner for performance. I bring my partner with me for my performance. I don't leave my partner for performance.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that that's something that we've heard just so many times, like follows get the advice that you'll do better if you ignore your lead.
Yeah.
Right.
Or steamroll your lead.
Sadly, they will though, won't they?
I know.
Sadly, they will. Like that's actually the problem. Sadly, what happens is that I say to lots of my all-stars when I work with my all-stars, especially the ones that are like gray area heading into champions, like you've learned to do this thing through self-preservation. Like I get it. It's not your fault. Like the system has fed you to do this, right? So same thing with these 2 leads. The system has fed them to do this because they keep getting rewarded for that thing. So it's Pavlovian, right? If I keep getting rewarded for it, then I'm going to do it. So yeah. So then it goes back to the very first question 35 minutes ago with, do you think really well good, qualified judges can see connection? Then I go, well, that's the first part of that sentence.
It's like word this very carefully.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, what's going to be really funny is how many judges after they watch this call me and go, do you think I'm one of those judges? And anytime I do interviews, I get calls from people. Anytime I do interviews, I get calls, were you talking about me? I was like, I wasn't. But the fact that you thought I was.
Right. Let's say.
Potentially concerning. Something that has helped me as in my competitive journey that I'll just share, because like one of those disconnects at the higher levels is that your values are going to be different from many of the judges who are judging you. Yeah. And so if it's a value distinction, then I'm okay with my dancing and they just aren't valuing what I value. So like, I'm always going to go out there and be it, especially as a follow. It's hard. Like, I'm never going to be a steamroll follow.
Right.
Never, ever. But that's going to screw me over more often than not in the division that I'm in. And so
the sad part is I'm always like, at some point, there's this fine line between, if I'm your coach, there's this fine line between, I got to get you to the higher level to be able to dance with leaders that can appreciate the influence you put onto a dance as opposed to you taking over a dance, right? I would like my high level follows to influence the dance, not to take the dance over, not to run over the leader. So I'd rather you influence the situation as opposed to, steal the situation. And so, but on some level, but then I have to go like, listen, to make finals and to get to that point, you gotta steal it. Like until it's like this horrible cycle until the judging gets better and stops rewarding this stuff, right? Like, so I have to, as your coach, I have to play the dance fundamental integrity thing, the integrity that I want the dance to have. I have to juggle that with, I'm a competitive person, as how do I get you to win? Right. So I got to get you to win. I got to get you to final. So there's this balancing act that I have to do where I have to stay true to what I believe the integrity of the dance to be, while at the same time giving you the tools to win. And sometimes the integrity of the dance doesn't fit what the tools are that need to win. And that's the problem, right? Like that's where we really struggle.
Yeah. I would say 90% of the soapboxes Alicia and I get on is that soapbox.
All the time.
Along those lines.
Yeah. It drives me crazy, it's so funny because I MC most of the time, but I get a lot of people that are like, oh my God, I wish you judged more. I wish you judged more. And I love it when all-stars say that to me. And even when young champions say that to me. And I was like, I don't know that you want me to judge, but okay.
Careful what you wish for.
But I do think that the novice intermediates would love me as a judge, because for me, like, I'm going to reward the connection. If you're hyper connected, you're making it to finals. I don't care if you can kickball change and drop into a split and jump up on your own. I could give a crap about that, right? The other thing is that we reward people. So the reference I use all the time is I love Andrea Bocelli, the singer. Mm-hmm. So if Andrea Bocelli was on The Voice and it was Britney Spears week and he had to sing Britney Spears like Britney Spears, he had to sing in it, he would sound horrible, right? Like, would he be on pitch? Of course. Would he be on key? Of course. Does he have a vehicle to be an amazing singer? Of course, right? But he does, so what happens at the novice level and intermediate level, we're like, well, that person was a professional ballet dancer first, right? But our dance sucks, right? Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to hear Luciano Pavarotti in a rap contest. Like, I would want Luciano Pavarotti to understand rap before he entered a rap contest. Does that make sense? And so we have a system of people like, oh, well, that person, and I've had judges say to me, yeah, I'm guilty of that. Like, I know that they're really good dancers. They just don't own our dance enough yet, but I can see that they're professional dancers. Well, they don't own our dance yet. Make them work for it. Make them earn our dance. Yeah. So we end up getting a lot of all-stars and a lot of champions who actually have never taken the time to really commit to truly foundational work to our dance, because they haven't had to, because they're good at other dances. Yeah. So we're like, oh, well, that person's a really great Kizumba dancer, like, amazing. And I'm like, but they don't triple step. I know, but did you see their spine? Yeah. Did you see their walk? Figure that out, right?
Not quite the same thing.
Not the same thing. Exactly. And by the way, for the record, in your head, you can't unhear Luciano Pavarotti doing Eminem. I know it. I know that it's just a thing.
Excellent. So since I know your time is short, I'm just going to drop in the YouTube link to the dance between you and Bryn from Mad Jam. So everybody go ahead and just save the link so you can watch it afterwards. But I think we're just going to dive right into the screen share to save time.
Can I preamble this a little bit?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
So they asked me, to your viewers, they asked me, you had pulled up 4 dances and you asked me which one I wanted to review. And one of them was the Me and Tren, which I feel like has been fished through a lot by lots of people. And it's one of my all-time favorite dances, and obviously a magical dance for me. And then you asked about a Tatiana dance, and you asked about a Brandy dance, and about the Bryn dance. And the reason why I said the Bryn dance, which I've actually only watched once since that night. Like, I saw it one time, like the next day, and then didn't watch it again. So this will be really my first time analyzing it. But the reason why I bring up Bryn is because Bryn and I don't know each other as well. Like, yes, we've danced together a few times and they've taken lessons from me and all of that kind of stuff, but I don't like know her dance like I know Brandy's dance or I know Tatiana's dance, right? Because we have years and years and years of history of dancing with each other. So because it's more realistic to what you might do, you being the audience here, where you get somebody who, yes, you've social danced with, maybe you got in a previous Jack and Jill, but you don't know the insides and outs of them, right? So like trying to find that person that you kind of know but don't fully know, right? Which also piggybacks itself nicely into what if you don't know at all. Like with my dance with Trin, I didn't know her at all. I mean, I know her visually, but I'd never danced with her before. So that's why I picked the Bryn dance. Just wanted to say that.
Awesome. Is there, when you have that kind of dancer relationship with someone, do you have a game plan for going into a competitive dance with them?
Record, the plus that I have that you all don't have is I can sit up there, and I've done this, right? So I've done this, and actually what's really fun, you guys don't know this, but like all the new champions want to sit next to me. That sounds so arrogant, I don't mean it to, but they all want to sit next to me in Champions Jack and Jill and finals, only because I'm very talkative. Right. So I am very like, I will talk about what's going on as it's happening, but also like they'll ask me what I would do. And I'm not going to say who the champions are, but there's at least 4 or 5 champion males in the last couple of years pre-pandemic. And then they're like, okay, like I haven't danced yet and you haven't danced yet. And here's the 5 ladies left. What would you do? And I literally go, bop, 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 bop. I have a very set agenda immediately with every one of them that I get. And, because I understand their language, right? So I made a joking reference recently about love language, right? So you have to understand your person's love language, right? So do you guys know the love languages? Right. So when I'm dancing with a champion follow, I know their love language when it comes to dance. Does that make sense? So then I speak to them in their love language, basically, to use that reference. And so I'm very lucky that I get to do that because I know most of the champions were a much smaller pool, so we all know each other, even though lots of champions don't take the time to really understand and how their tools can deliver the other person's love language. I believe that's like the key to my longevity, right? This is like my 30th year in the champions division.
Yeah.
So the key to my longevity is figuring out that love language, you know, being able to talk to it. And so what you need to do at the lower levels is how fast can you negotiate what language they speak? And that negotiation through connection is one of the things that's missing. So when it comes to somebody like Bryn, I actually don't really know Bryn's love language yet. I mean, I have an idea. So for me, Bryn's love language is body isolation. Like that's what I go, okay, she likes body isolation. That's the thing. I'm going to try to talk in that language as best I can. Right? Does that make sense? So there's like a fluid undulation to what she does. And then she likes to isolate parts of her body as she goes. And most of her musicality isn't partner driven. So she likes to deliver the musicality within her body, separate from what's happening in the hand. Not for the good or bad of it, just is what it is. So like trying to figure that out. And because I'm not 100% sure where she lives weight-wise in the hand and stuff like that, a dance like this one is a lot of feeling out for me. It's a lot of negotiation for me in my mind. What are the best tools that I have to speak to her in her love language?
Yeah, oh, that's so awesome. And just as a side note, what is your Westie love language?
What's my Westie love language? So my Westie love language is shared creativity. So my Westie love language is I would like us to deliver stuff that we do together. So I'm not a big fan of you do your thing and I'll do my thing. So from my standpoint. So if you watch all of my past dances, it's always either we're going to do these things together or it's call and response where I let you go first. Yep. So for me, it's either call and response, I let you go first, then I piggyback onto what you just did, or I would like to do these things together. So for me, it's that's my thing. That doesn't, but I'm super adaptable to speak to your love language. Like I'm not married to mine. You have to do mine, right? So unless you negatively affect me, then I become a control freak, and then I will like
Yes. But yeah, the reason I wanted to ask is because I know how adaptable you are, and like you take care of every partner you have in your hands.
Yeah, I mean,
like that's your priority.
Right.
I wanted to see like what is the you that
you know my love language is? Oh my God, my therapist is gonna love this. You know my love language is I desperately want everybody to like me. So that's my love.
That's why I asked you, like, sir, it's time to take care of yourself.
My love language is that I'm a little short fat kid in my head still, right? So I'm a little short, fat kid in my head. I mean, you guys know I've struggled with my weight my whole life. So I'm a little short, fat kid who, by the time I was in 4th grade, I'd been to, I think, 7 schools. So without going into my whole backstory, we were very poor when I was young, and we were on welfare for a number of years, state funded. So the state moved us around. So we moved around a lot. So by the time I got to 4th grade, I'd been to a whole bunch of schools. So I was a little short, fat kid that immediately plugged in and was like, you all have to like me. So I figured out how to get to the groups that I could make like me without pushing myself upon them. I got them to like me enough to accept me. So when that happens, when you're in that scenario, you know, my dad left when I was 4, mom was married 5 times, like all that kind of like crazy instability along the way does a couple of different things. And textbook wise, it either makes people like me and Jim Carrey, right? Like the people that are just manically wanting the world to like them, or it makes people like revert into like this complete introvert, right? Like where they just like run from the world. So so I believe like every follower I get, I'm like desperate to want them to like this dance. So I want to speak to them in their language. So it's worked for me, for the record.
My emotional that's how I lead too.
My emotional hangups have worked as a Jack and Jill.
All right, so I'm going to take us to the screen share. Where's the
love
button?
that you guys aren't really old enough to know that reference, but I love that you use that reference.
It became canon when Chris Dumont got really excited when I made a joke about it. And I'm like, oh no, I have to do this forever and always now.
Right, of course.
And now people want it on a t-shirt, you know, it's,
right, sure.
It's a whole thing. Wait, where did the video panel go? Come back. Okay, cool. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
I can, yes.
All right, excellent. So I know I want to be mindful of your time, Robert. So I'm just gonna like go forward, and you can narrate. And when you want me to stop and or draw a thing, just let me know.
Great. So just so you know, first of all, so just pause it. So why do Kyle and I mean, I've been doing it for years, but like, and Kyle's not the only one who does it, like Ben does too. But why do I start apart a lot? Because what I'm actually looking for is I'm forcing them to have to visually connect to me. I'm forcing them to actually visually have to pay attention to what I'm going to do next, right? So it forces the situation of visual and body language, conversational body language and conversational eye contact with my follow. Does that make sense? Because if I take them right into closed, lots of times they can check out. Right? Yeah. They can check out and they can think about whatever technique they want to think about. Yeah. And so when I start apart, the whole purpose of starting apart is you have to pay attention to me, right? Sometimes out of fear, I don't care. I don't care if it scares them. Like they have to pay attention to me. Yeah. So which is just so immediately, and pause it for a second. Immediately, I have said to Bryn when I start apart, you have to connect with me. Visually and body language wise, you have to connect with me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Now it builds also because great dances have structures of where we build anticipation, we deliver what we've said that you should anticipate, and then we give you a chance to breathe. So it should be a build of anticipation, delivery of what's been promised to be anticipated, and then we should let the audience absorb, and then you go through it again. Then you rebuild anticipation, deliver. So you get them to anticipate, you deliver what they've anticipated, you give them time to respond, right? Or to breathe. Then you build anticipation, deliver what they like. That's a reoccurring thing in dance. So in doing it for the audience, it builds anticipation. What are they going to create? Does that make sense? For the follow, it makes them pay attention. Yes. And so that there's a connectivity right away as we talk about performance connection. And then ideally, we then deliver something to the audience.
Right. Yeah. And then giving the audience that moment to actually ingest what just happened is so important. And like so many people just like run away from the thing that they just did. And I'm like, steep in it.
Right. So like Fosse would say, for those of you who know Bob Fosse, so Bob Fosse would say that it was about the building of tension, the building of tension. It was this controlled, sustained, oh crap, I want to explode, and then let them explode. Then let them go, and then build that again, and then let them explode. And okay, great, and then build it again, right? So it was. I think it's the great thing that we should look for in all of our dances.
Absolutely.
This is all good. You can see visually, we're both paying, I'm very focused on what she's doing, where's she going? And so what am I doing? I'm talking in her love language. Like you can see me using my shoulders, like, hey, there's some body isolation,
Yep.
right? As we're going, that whole thing is me telling her, I got you, I get your love language. Does that make sense? Trying to do some. So if you rewind it and go real time, can you go real time and sound?
Let's see. I can't do sound, unfortunately.
Okay, but go real time.
All right. Let me know if it chokes.
No worries. I get that. Boom, boom, ka. Right. Awesome. Cool. So what I've just done, so what I did in that whole thing, I did all the body isolations, whatever. I let her know. Now this is important, like through the visual connection, right? Through the visual connection and through pause for just a second, and through the body language connection, I've told Bryn, I get you. I get you. Now, and I'm going to create space for you. So what does that say from a connectivity standpoint? It says to her, you don't have to take it from me. So this is a negotiation. There's a negotiation that happens, right? From a connection standpoint, right? So the connection standpoint is, I know you, you don't have to take from me. I will give you opportunities to be you. So then at no point do I want her mind seeking, how does she deliver herself within my structure? I'm going to give her time for herself within my structure. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So she does the little phone thing. I'm going to call you, whatever it is. I forget the song, but right. Now, as I connect to the hand right there, as I connect to that hand, right, keep going, right from there, connect the hand, right? So then I'm going to push myself away from the hand as I push the hand down just a little bit. And now we have connection as we go, right? All very connected. This is all good. There's tone in the hand. Boom, 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 right? I forget what the words were, but I walked her there. Da, 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 da. Nice tone in the arms. You can see that that's all happening, right? From here, stretch, and then we go. You can see all of that, paying attention, stretch. I'm obviously setting something up here. I don't know what's happening next, but I'm setting something up. I can tell in my body when I'm setting something up. So I don't know what I'm setting up because I can't hear the music, but I'm setting something up there like that whole time. And I'm looking at her, she's looking at me the whole time. What are we doing? Where's the space? Where's the musicality? Right, as we go. Now what's super important about that, so rewind just a hair. So you probably can't see my cursor, right?
Correct.
Correct, right. So put your cursor on my hand, Cassie. Right, cool. So as that moves around, have that cursor stay around my hand. So as it moves around, right, cool. As she goes, she goes. So I drop it down. See how I drop it down? Try to keep that plane. I drop it down. Now it's as she moves around, it's going to go up just a little bit as she moves, but it's still staying pretty much in the same place as we both equally stretch away from that the whole time, creating a shared centered countered point, right? So I want to talk a lot, stop right there. So, and it's still there. So now we've had lots of texture, right? We've changed places. We've been close to each other. So we've changed places. Then we get really close to each other, right? Then she comes around here and then there it is there. So go back to the beginning again. Not the beginning.
Yeah, sorry. I have so many frames that I wanted to jump around a lot.
I want you to stop right there. I want you to notice that my hand is in between the A and the M of Mad Jam. You see it? Right? So now if you were to go just a little bit to one side of the A and a little bit to one side of the M, like the first bar of the M and the A where the A has the little the little groove. Yeah, so there to about there. My hand is going to live in that space this entire time. So she finishes, where is it? Right, it's in that space, isn't it? If we were to build that space, right? It's in that space the whole time. So, but we've created lots of texture, right? So what is a center countered point? Center countered point is a point at which we both are countered off of, right? It's a shared center. We're both countered off and is usable to both of us at all times. Right. So that shared center, center countered point is something that's visual that you should be able to see maintenanced by both partners throughout a dance. And that pause it. So it's one of the places where we talk about how can I see effective connection. Look for the center countered point or the CCP, right? So you look for the center countered point, and if you can see that being maintenanced on both sides, it's being maintenanced by Bryn and it's being maintenanced by me, right? Then we know that we have a connection that is open to any performative conversation. Does that make sense?
Yes. One of the things I love, because Bryn is so tall, like the center counterpoint is like, I don't want to say it's more important, but something that I struggle with as a tall follow is leaders thinking, oh, she's tall, she needs more rope. And that is like the opposite of what's true.
Right.
And
the only thing that will happen with the taller follows, because I know you're tall, is that you'll see the range, the hand, the height of the hand, it'll be really,
yes.
really low and then go up higher. You'll see the motion of the hand being low and high more than you would in a shorter follow.
Right.
Right.
I call that high dynamic range.
Right.
Love that term.
Well, we can say range of motion, right? Like the range of motion is going to be greater, right?
Yeah.
Great. So do that again. Go back to there. So as we go to here, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, right there. Stop right there. So draw a little, one of your little green things on the top hand, Great. So as I move away, watch both of us maintain that. She's pushing away, she's pushing down, right? So we both maintain that as we go, she maintains that. So even though our elbows are bent, there is tone there that we are both using. We're both maintaining that center counterpoint, right? We're both maintaining, she's pushing through the floor very nicely. As I stretch away, we both don't affect that. We both stretch away from it, center counterpoint, and then we can choose to move from it as we go into the next thing. So super important. You can see the maintenance of that. That is one of the things visually judges should be looking for. And it's one of the things we should be searching for as dancers is how are we babysitting the center counterpoint, right? So moving to the next thing. Right, you can see it being babysat, goes almost straight up, doesn't it, as I head into that tuck. So instead of like really pulling it toward me, it does come towards me a little bit, but it's probably going to go pretty straight up right here as we head into the tuck.
All right.
Right, it'll go a little bit towards me, but it's going to start pretty much straight up, right? Starting pretty much straight up, we're both collecting to it because I'm going to do a tuck. Right from there, it goes a little towards me so she can bounce off of it. And you can see, look at it sit between the two of us. Watch it sit between the two of us instead of pushing toward her. It goes up, comes down and around. It goes between the two of us, straight down, basically, straight down so that Bryn can move away from it or not as choice. She gets to make the choice is what she's doing on her side of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, keep going, keep going, keep going. Nice, you said center counterpoint. Boom, as we go, there's a little thing about baby there. So we just talk through the hand through that. So what I want you to look at is I want you to stop right there. So if you can draw a line on my right leg, that's the far leg, right? Right, cool. So that leg, right? So I want you to watch as she goes. So I strike that leg, right? So I want you right here, look at the angle of the leg, right? So as she goes, I move it a little bit. Do you see that little movement? Go back, watch me move it. This is super important. This is, leaders miss this all the time. Watch me shuffle it and I move it. So why did I move it? Right? So let's talk for a second about why I moved that foot, right? Because in order for performative connection, actually any connection, by the way, for the record, pause it for a second. For the record, you know, this thing is called performative connection. For me, how I connect socially is how I connect performative wise. So for me, my dance isn't any different. I will dance with each one of you socially the exact same way I would dance with Tatiana competitively. The content will be different and how much I open to an audience would be different because I won't open to an audience if we're social dancing. So other than opening to an audience and other than the content based on the capabilities, so other than the content based on capabilities and any performative body language, my connection and my intention is exactly the same in every dance I do from newcomer to Tatiana.
Yep.
Because like the foundation, Does that make sense?
Yes.
It should be.
So one of the things that we want to make sure when it comes to connection, so connection is always about countering, right? So lots of times what happens, I want you to notice how much weight Bryn, go back to where you just were, that was perfect, keep going. I want you to notice when Bryn transfers to her right leg, so draw the line of her leg, stop right there. Draw the line of her leg. So she has a lot of her weight over that leg. So erase that line. Can you see my leg underneath it? I'm ahead of her. I have a steeper angle, don't I? Because what I'm actually doing is I'm having Bryn with her body weight take me to my final leg to build. So what's happening in the arm right now is a build of connection because there is resistance. Even when you watch it to speed, it looks like we're going in the same direction at the same rate. We are not. She is moving at a faster rate to that leg than I am. I am trying to move slower. So stop for a second. Two objects moving in the same direction at the same rate can neither be stretching nor compressing. Two objects moving in the same direction at a requested different rate can create stretch or compression. Can your people see me right now?
I think so.
Yes. They should be able to.
Let us know in the chat if you can't.
So from here, if this is moving here, nothing happens. If this hand goes that way and it wants to go faster, so this hand wants to go at a certain speed and this hand resists that speed, stretch happens, right? So stretch happens because this hand, the closed fingers want to go faster than the open fingers. The open fingers want to go fast, the closed fingers go no, 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 and stretch happens, right? If we both move at the same rate in the same direction, nothing happens. So what happens is I'm here, Bryn lands here. I don't want to go that way in the same speed she does. She lands there and she actually brings me to that leg. So I'm wanting to go that way, but I'm losing the battle basically as we go. And that builds connection. And why? Because I want to make sure I get Bryn's redirection, that I get her final leg. And I want that through connection because I'm about to request for her to do these little point ball changes. Right, so I have her, she's taking me to the final leg, right? And then as we settle into that, I go, okay, she's feeling that redirection sense that was in my body already. We step, and now in the arm, that connection at her ribs is very strong, so she can feel that. Does that make sense? So setting up that step ball change, it's vital in the first rib catch that my performative connection, which I'll just say my connection in general, that my connection is intact, that there is an opposition, there's a countering that is happening prior to going to the next piece.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really see it. And the problem here, right? I'm actually gonna, I didn't think I was gonna stand up and dance, but I'm gonna stand up and dance. The problem here is that leaders tend to plant and then they're done.
Yep.
So they'll go 1, 2, they'll put the leg there and then the follow goes. And now with Bryn, what do I have with Bryn? I have longer legs. So as I go here, this plant might have been perfect if I was dancing with Sarah Van Drake, might have been perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm dancing with Bryn. So she takes that longer step and I go, ooh, I have to re-step that. I have to re-step that because I still got to stay ahead of her so that I can ease into that. And so many times leaders on roll in, roll outs, they'll roll in, they'll plant, then they'll grab the follow's rib cage and then or they get pulled over. I grab the rib cage as the follow goes. If I need to adjust that foot so that I can stay ahead, then I've always adjusted that foot. I don't commit that leg and then hope that that the catch distance that I've created is proper. So what I love about that video, which I'd never seen until just now, is everything I tell leaders, I say it all the time in class, I plant my leg knowing that I can adjust here. I can either do this or I can do this as needed to maintain connection and the counter with the follows momentum. So in that instance, I bring Bryn here, I plant here. As she moves, I'm like, okay, she's taking more movement there. You see me release and re-step so that I give myself that extra little bit of space so that I can maintain the connection. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That reminds me, we analyzed your dance with Bryn from Swingtacular from a
That dance
while
was
back.
awesome and we should have placed higher.
Agreed.
I rarely say I should have placed higher. We should have placed higher.
There is this one point where you basically did a weight supported move with her where she just planked back from her knees and you literally leaped into the ether to get further down the slot so that way she could do that comfortably. And I was like, do you see the arc? There was a lot of geometry on that.
Lots of geometry, 100%.
So I know we're over an hour. Do you want to keep going or do you need to wrap up for the night?
Let's go a little bit more. Go a little bit more.
All right. To the screen share again.
What this means is we have to do a part
doodly
2.
do.
We have to do a part 2 is what this means.
I will not say no to that.
I will come back and do another one in a heartbeat if your people want me.
I mean,
I'm
want
sure
you, so you're in charge.
They're desperately asking to be pet. Tell them what you want. Never seen that move before.
I just love that the way you pulse the timing of those turns. Like it's not a static timing as you're going through them. There's a pulse to them.
Listen, I do this whole, there's 4 pulses of every turn. There's 4 pulses to every turn. So there's a reason why you're as a leader, we're supposed to pulse the turn at the moment that the follow is supposed to be pushing with her, with the foot that she's pushing with. So the leader should pulse in the hand, the timing of the follow's push. So I teach a whole class on the 4 pulses of turn. And it's the most non-used technique by leaders and spins that exists. No, leaders do not understand how to pulse turns. Oh, good, 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 good. I want you to notice, like, go back to it again. So I want you to watch my eyes. So come out of this, watch my eyes as we come out of it. First of all, she's taller than me. but I'm still just like spinning well. So come into here, I do a quick, as we go over, I'm like, okay, make sure I clear her head, right? You can see my eyes clearing her head, or I've cleared the bun, right? Then I go down, I look down, where's she going? I look, now stop right there. So I'm really looking from here in my eyes. You can see my eye line. I'm looking to her, I'm looking, you can probably see my, can you see, you can't see my, I'm going like this. And anyway, from my eyes to the opposing hip, to the far hip, and through her spine. So I'm going from my eyes to that opposing hip. That's, I'm looking for her spine, and I'm looking for the weighted foot. Does that make sense? Cool. And I want you to look at her eye line. She's looking down to my pointed foot. Can you see that?
Yep.
She's looking down to my pointed foot. We are both checking in on what's going on. She understands where the weighted leg is. She wants to know what I'm doing with the leg that's not free. I want to make sure she's committing to the weighted leg, because that's the leg I'm going to talk to. I always talk to the leg that the follows on, right? Now, as we go into this, as we go into this knee, go ahead. As we go into the knee, boom, she hits. So we go into the knee, boom, 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 boom. As we take that step, there's a phrase change going on. So she knows I'm going to send the phrase change. As I draw that knee in, right, I'm looking down like, please pay attention. So stop. Both of us, so at the start of that, we were both looking down. I'm asking her actually to look down, right? Everything's like, please check out what's going on. As we go into this, she's going to take a step, but then she sees that kick in. She's like, oh, got it. Now stop. Go back again. I want you to notice my strike. Go back. Keep going. Right. So I really, go ahead. This way. Let it go all the way to the strike slowly. I want you to notice, look at my turnout. Look at how much, notice that I turn my foot before she does. Right. So that one more time. I want you to look at the timing of my turnout. I go, hey, I'm turning it, turn out before I apply weight to that, because I'm giving her time to catch up to it. Does that make sense? All she knows, I'm making a forward step, but now I'm telling her I want that turnout, right? So as we're going, now I'm going to speak her love language. Go ahead. I'm about to speak her love language, which is more hip hop, and we're going to glide, and she understands what I'm doing because I understand her movement.
Yeah.
Right. As we go out, little shimmy. There's the performative side, but I want you to look at my center countered point. I let it build. Do that again. So I do the little forward shimmy to the audience, which is again what I would do performative wise, because I'm performing to the audience, because I was just like, look, I did one of Bryn's things, but watch the hand catch up. I go, I'm there. You can see the tension. Go for it. Center countered point. She moves away from it. I'm stay and go ahead and stop. Go back. The other thing I want you to do, go back. When it comes to connection, brace step. Leaders, you have to learn to brace. So I want you to look at my left leg prior to pickup. I want you to look at my, okay, that's fine. So right now, stop. So my leg is braced. It is out in front of me. It is braced, right? I'm about to brace weight that is acting upon me. Then I'm going to set a center countered point, and I'm going to let Bryn's energy pull me to that leg. Watch her pull me to that leg through resistance. Go ahead. So I'm there. I'm not quite finished it yet. She picks up the hand. And then watch, she pulls me the rest of the way to that leg. Can you see that extra little bit right there? Right there. She pulls me to that leg through resistance. I'm not pushing her there. I'm giving her some leeway, a little push, so that she knows where we are as we head into whatever the next thing is. You with me on that? So understanding that brace step, understanding the center countered point, all of those things open the line of communication to do the other stuff that we're doing. So I'm resisting the whole time. I'm still back. I'm still pushing back. Now I let her take me to that leg, but she's taking me to that leg to free up the other leg finally, and we can go into the next piece that we're doing. You know what I love about this video? I've never watched this video before till just now. And when we talk about performative connections, why you two are brilliant. People need to really go back. People who haven't watched your stuff need to go back and watch your stuff, because you don't just do this with me. You do this on your own.
Yeah.
So well.
And it's just so validating to hear you like ranting about the same stuff that we rant about. It's like,
It's great.
Listen, let me tell you something. I wouldn't agree to be on here if I didn't honor both of your opinions and think that you're pretty spot on.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
So
like
yeah.
I like what you guys do so much, and I think you have very smart minds. You're smoney. So and that's called the callback. So yes, right. So you're smoney. But when you watch this, what you're seeing from a connection standpoint is you will see in this whole dance, Bryn and I talking through the center countered point. You'll see as a leader, me creating resisted moments, like that resisted moment shifting so I could resisted moments so that there's a maintenance of the connection, which allows for a more connected performance value. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you really see that through the dance.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next piece.
We're about halfway through this dance. So if there's something you want me to skip ahead to.
Center, counter, point. You can see it in the hands talking to each other's hips, center, counter, point. You can just manage the hand the whole time. Watch the hand stay in between the two of us, watching us move to and from. Center, counter, point, right? The whole time paying attention to her. That's me setting up a whole situation for her to do whatever she wants to do. Does that make sense? Now from here, I look at her right there. I'm like, now you know what's going to happen because you know my love language is call and response. So if you're going to do that little thing, right? And look, you can even see Ken, like, I know it's about to happen, right? Watch Ken and Sarah. Go back. Watch the beginning of this.
Oh my God, Sarah's amazing.
Back it up a little bit. Back it up a little bit, right? So watch Bryn. Boom, boom, boom. And he's like, watch Ken. And they're like, yeah, right? As this happens, now they're like, hey, all right, that's good. Watch the two of them. As we come through there, they're like, there you go. Now they know, here I come. Ken was like, I knew you were going to do this. Right? Do that same, like, that's right. Look, he knew it. He's like, I knew that was going to happen. Right? Like, there's the callback. So Bryn pays attention, lets me have it. She knows I'm going to do the same thing. She has a little smile. That's right. Do the same thing as we go. Right. So, but because we are, when it comes to performative connection, one of the things you can watch that's really good about this dance is I said connection is three things. There's the physical side of connection, there's the body language side of connection, there's the visual side of connection. So because we both maintenance all three of those things so well, does that make sense? We have the ability to understand what we're doing performative wise.
Yep.
Makes sense. And actually, we think of this dance as a win because we lost to Jordan and Tatiana, who were doing Strictly, so that doesn't really quite count. So like, we came in second, but really we won, right? So because it was Jordan and Tatiana, so that doesn't count.
Right. It's not fair for them to do Strictly, right?
Right, exactly. And by the way, in the roll in, roll outs, you can watch all of the connection maintenance and the roll in, roll outs. And again, as she rolls out, go ahead and let her roll out, right? So you see the center countered point between the two of us, maintenancing that, right? As she rolls in, let her roll in. As she rolls out, I want you to look at my down at the leg closest to her. Stop right there. I'm already setting up resistance, aren't I? Go back, watch my whole body language. Go back a little bit. My whole body language is about to resist the weight that she's moving to. So performative connection, creating power. I take this little shuffle step and my whole body says, I'm about to resist. Now, what you can't really see is the hand on the other side, like the hand that would be like right about my belly level. You can see where her hand goes right in there. What you can't see is that there's a lot of energy right now. There's a lot of countering, and I'm asking Bryn to pull me. So she moves, she's pulling me to that side. So there's a build of tension. So that's, I'm not moving, I'm being pulled, believe it or not, as we go into that. And that maintenance is that connection. So as we go into the next piece, let it go to the next piece, right? As we go to the next piece, this becomes very full and connected and attached. And all of our leg, look at our leg action and our strike is verbatim because we can read through the hand, through countering in the hand, what's going on the whole time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now, even as we let go, there's the visual connection. So we know exactly where each other are. We babysit the center counterpoint as we reset up and then keep going. Awesome. Yeah. Around, counter, what is she doing? Oh, she's doing this little toe thing. So I'm going to stay here with her. Nice. Paying attention to what's going on, babysitting the center countered point the whole time. So go back to that little around thing. This will make this the last piece. I want you to watch. So what is the center countered point? It's the point at which both of us can counter off of. So as she goes around, stop right there. So the center countered point is actually my hand on her back, but more importantly, stop right there. It's the arm contact between her elbow and my forearm, right? So that's the point right there at which we can both counter off of. Yeah, right there. So as we go around, right, that's a point at which she goes around. But so my hand on her back, she can push off of, but also we're really going to talk to that arm. So she goes around, we're staying in the connection. I'm opposing her the whole time, right? So that she can stay balanced. As she goes through here, as she pops underneath, I want you to watch the connection in the arm. So she goes down underneath. There's the right. And then she takes a little step and then she applies pressure. Stop right there. So actually what's interesting is my hand is pulling up while her hand is pushing down. So we are countering each other. I'm not pushing her down. I have an up action while she has a down action to monitor that point right there at her elbow, because as she goes underneath, go for it. Let it keep going. You'll see she goes underneath. We have that center countered point that's still maintaining there in the form. You can see it. So we still have that center countered point to be able to do the next piece, right? And I slide it down to her hand and I want you to go stop just for a second. So go back. Watch how the elbow slides to the hand, and then I want you to watch the hand hold. Look for the hand hold. She comes through, elbow's the center counter point. As she comes through, you can't see me slide to her hand. There's lots of tension there. As we slide to her hand, the connection is way higher than most of you will do socially. Stop right there. You can actually even see that the grip implies more tension than most of you will dance with, right? There's lots of connectivity there, right? As we go into the next piece. Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Proverbial
Okay.
victory sugar push.
Right.
That was so great. Is there anything else? I know. Go ahead and plug your stuff.
Yeah.
Plug away,
Royston
sir.
Method, I mean, roystonmethod.com. That's what I tell everybody. There's lots of my Royston Method people on here right now. So Royston Method, for me, it's a life method. It's a methodology, like how we move through life. For me, couples dancing, is a metaphor for how we communicate with people in life. We should be caring and pay attention to the other person and what they're doing, right? So that we can better have a conversation about how life exists. So Royston Method's a life method, but I do have Sunday Science, which is a 2-hour where I talk about the science of all this movement. I have Fittest Over 50, and then there's about 900 hours of curated content. May 8th, I have Eric Franklin coming on again with Dynamic Alignment Through Imagery. Eric Franklin's an amazing movement specialist. I'm bringing on Trolls and Ina, probably not until June now, but they're the current world Latin champions, but they're going to do a Sunday for me. I've had Maria Torres, just really amazing people on my Sunday Sciences. And then I have a whole bunch of like past intensives and stuff like that on there, and old school moves. So for me, if you want to understand the science of dance and mindful muscular movement, how do we move through life professionally, right? So moving through life professionally, then that's the Royston Method. So if you join with the coupon code EVOLVE, EVOLVE, right? The word evolve with lowercase, you save almost $200 on the website. Right, cool. So when you go to checkout, use evolve. So other than that, people know who I am. They know where I'm at. So I appreciate you both very much. I will give you a couple more minutes if anybody has any questions for me. If any of your people
Feel free to drop a question in the chat or raise your proverbial Zoom hand with the Zoom function.
Yeah, questions or comments. I'll give you 5-10 more minutes. Anybody got a question or a comment? You don't have to, by the way.
They're all like, wait, I didn't know I could do that. Internal scrambling.
Michelle has something. No? Oh, got it. Internal scrambling. All right, so we're all good. Nothing.
Nothing.
I found this too late. Oh, Vivian, well, you'll see it.
It's okay. The recording will be up this Sunday at noon Pacific on our YouTube channel, Nerdy WCS.
Nerdy WCS, by the way, I think everybody should, like lots of people that are on here because they saw that I posted this, right? You should check out Nerdy WCS, because if you liked what these two fabulous, wonderful, smart, smummy ladies did, you're going to love so much of their YouTube stuff. It's really great.
Oh, thank you so much. That means the world.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. It's really a gem. Thank you for doing this. This is really great and educational. Thank you, Thomas. I hope you guys in watching like some of those slow-mo stuff really get to pick up on the stuff that you miss that actually is the maintenance of connection that we're talking about, that I find to be missing so much in the dance.
Yep. And just for those of you who may be unfamiliar with Alicia and I, we also have a Patreon where we do more constructive criticism videos, because we don't want to do that to people on our public forum without their consent.
Don't want to call people out.
I guess maybe someday we'll feel brave enough, but this is not that day. So and if you ever want us to actually review one of your own videos, we're also available for that. So I love doing that. It's so much fun.
One of these times, so I'll come back and do a part 2, by the way. But
yes.
I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna pick one of my videos for the two of you to analyze while I listen.
No pressure.
Okay, cool.
I will let you say the good and the bad of it all.
Row the troll. I'm here for this.
Look at Aaron. Do it. No, I would be like, listen, go ahead, shred me. Say the pros, that's fine, but say the cons as well. Because first of all, I love that kind of stuff. And I think you're both very, very smart. And I think your insight would be fantastic into it. Right. And then we could talk through what my negotiation and what I was trying to do in those moments to fix the situation, or how the situation shocked me, or how I think I might have negatively affected them. I'm going to talk about how even at certain levels, those things can still happen,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Where there's a, oh crap, how do I save this?
Yeah.
You know? Right.
Yeah. Because no matter how good of a dancer you are, shit will still hit the fan.
Right. I will tell you, I'm very proud of the fact that I don't really have, I think you would struggle to find a train wreck by me.
Probably.
You would struggle to find a train wreck.
And I would argue that is because you prioritize your love language is caring for your partner.
Right, 100%. So like you will find not great dances, but you won't find a train wreck, right?
Yeah.
Because once a dance is going bad, I look to the person from a caring standpoint to go, how do I make this better? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
bingo.
Cool.
Bingo.
All right.
Oh, it has been such a joy to have you on. And yes,
Thanks so
we'd
much.
love to have you back. May the force be with you with your intense schedule this week.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
It's true.
Yeah. And Alicia and I will stay on a little while longer if people come up with other questions, but
right,
we release you to bed.
All right. Well, I love you both. You're amazing.
Too.
And I cannot wait. And Cassie, by the way, I really loved our conversation at Rose City. So thank you so much for taking some time and just chatting with me.
Yeah, of course. And let me know when you do have the time and we shall.
I will. Right. Exactly. All right. You guys are amazing. Keep it up and we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Night.